What is up, guys? Ben Allen back again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about how you can switch, or transfer from Army Reserves / National Guard to active duty. All right, but without further ado, let's get to it. Alright guys, so like I just said, today's video is going to be talking about how to transfer or switch over to active duty from the reserves or the National Guard. This is a question I get asked every now and then, but I also see it come up on a bunch of other military YouTubers' comment sections, like how can I switch, how can I do this, what's the process like, and most people just usually answer with like, oh, it's a long process, right? But nobody really ever goes into it, at least I don't think they do. So today I found an article. I'm going to link that same article down in the description box. I'm going to put a couple of Reddit posts that I found. I did like a good amount of research, guys. I found like a bunch of Reddit posts talking about people that have actually done it, and how they went about it. So if you guys want to get that information, it's going to be in the description box for you guys. You can click it. It's right there, and hopefully it gives you some insight. But I'm going to go ahead and read the article that I found that goes step by step in the process of getting everything approved, initiating it, things like that, right? But what I need you guys to do before we get into the actual video, right, is like this video if you love the content, things like that, if this is something you're interested in, and also subscribe to the channel right now if you aren't already, and turn on the bell notification as well. That way you guys can be immediately updated whenever I post a new video. And I know some of you guys may not be signed into your actual Google account. You might be watching this video on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever other social media you're using, but please, I encourage you to take the 2 minutes it takes just to go to the actual YouTube app, sign in, and actually subscribe to the channel, right? So you can be notified whenever new videos go live, whenever I post new content, whenever I post on my community tab, just in general, it would really mean a lot. And what you guys are getting out of that, should you subscribe to this channel, is active duty information, right? Because I just came out of active duty for the past 4 years. I got out as a sergeant, I was a former 68 Whiskey combat medic, and now I am currently in the United States Army Reserves, right? I kept my rank, I kept my MOS, and now I can give you guys the day-to-day of that as well. And it's just valuable knowledge if that's something you're looking for, you know what I mean? I do basic training videos, combat medic videos, reserve videos, active duty videos, you name it, I have it. But enough of that, guys, straight into the topic, right? So I'm gonna pull up the article, I have it on my phone, and I'm just gonna kind of I'll reiterate what it says, right? So it's not lengthy, but it's depending on how fast I can read, right? So here, let's get it going. Here it is, right? Again, it'll be in the description box below, right? But the title of the article is transferring from National Guard / Reserves to active duty, right? It says, it is possible to transfer from the active duty ranks to the National Guard or Reserves. In fact, the road is paved quite nicely to make that transition almost seamless. However, to be a reservist in any branch of service or National Guard, it is quite difficult to transfer into the active duty reserves. And I can speak to this, guys, because coming from active duty to the reserves was literally almost no hassle whatsoever. Everything was done over the phone. It was just a simple 4187. It took maybe a week total to get everything squared away with really no hassle or trouble on my part or the recruiter's part. It was super simple, right? But I hear stories time and time and again that people who try to switch from active or National Guard to the but I hear stories from people that switch from, reserves or National Guard that want to go active, and they say it's a lengthy process, it takes time, there's a bunch of hoops and ladders, right? So that's something to think about. But, so to continue on, it says there is no simple transfer process. It actually can take months to process. A reservist or a Guard member must first be released from the reserve status or basically apply to join the active duty ranks. That means finding a recruiter to assist you with the process into the military active. The Guards, Reserves, and active duty components are all different, with very few exceptions, mostly for medical professionals. One cannot simply transfer from the Reserve / Guard to active duty. One must get an approved discharge from the Reserve / Guard component and then separately process for enlistment or commission for an active duty service, right? So, exception, some Army Reserve and Army National Guard soldiers who are currently activated can apply for a direct transfer to active duty, right? So, if you're activated, right, say you're overseas or you're mobilized, things like that, you could ask for a transfer. It doesn't always mean it will go through, but that's just something that you could possibly do. And it goes on to say, however, one may apply to the reserves and or National Guard for a conditional release. Basically, a conditional release says that the reserve component or National Guard agrees to release you from the remainder of your commitment if you are accepted for enlistment or appointment to an active duty service component. Regardless, the official process is still long, guys. So you got to keep that in mind, that even once you get this process going, it could take months, guys, like months. Like I heard minimum is like 4 to 6 months. It could take even longer than that. So just be prepared for that lengthy process, right? Don't expect it to happen overnight. And then it goes on to do the actual list, right? So these are the steps that you would need to initiate in order to get that process going. So number 1, it says meet with an active duty recruiter. To start the conditional release process, you must see an active duty recruiter, right? Number 2, get a DD 368 signed by the recruiter. This is a conditional release form. The recruiter is the only person who can request a conditional release. He or she does this by submitting a DD form 368, request for conditional release. This form must be signed by the member and the active duty recruiter. So it's got to be signed by you and the recruiter together. You got to speak. Number 3, it says speak with your chain of command and get their support. It is important to realize that a conditional release does not need to be approved, right? It's entirely up to the guard/reserve component. If your unit or component is undermanned in your particular MOS or rating, they may disapprove the conditional release. This is also important to understand that this is not necessarily a fast process. Again, they're letting you all know this is not fast by any means, right? So it's important that you allow plenty of time for the DD Form 368 to make it through the review process. Number 4, submit the DD 368 along with your entire military record to your unit, right? So anything you have, right, like your contract, you know, ERB, LES, just in case, like, and make copies of all of this, guys. Like, make a bunch of copies of your 368, whatever else, whatever other documents you may have or need, make copies. Your paperwork might get lost, and if it gets lost and that's your only copy, you're gonna be kind of screwed. So make copies, 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 copies. It's very important. Like, I harped on it as an NCO to all my dudes when I was active duty, because shit gets lost, all right? But you just want to be better safe than sorry. Number 5, your packet with your DD 368 will be moved up the chain of command to the general level. Be prepared to wait for months. Plus, it is not a bad idea to make duplicate copies of everything, as there are always stories of the chain of command losing the package. See, I told you. Make copies, because more than likely they might lose it. I'm not saying they will, but it might. It's a possibility. Number 6, when your packet reaches the final approving authority, you will soon learn your fate. If the command approves it, you have a conditional release to join active duty. If the command denies it, you are staying in the reserves to complete your contract, right? So that's pretty much, you know, straightforward, guys. Like, the process in a nutshell. Again, the article, should you want to view it for yourself, is going to be in the description box below. And it goes on to say, right, enlisting as a prior service candidate. If the conditional release is approved, you may then enlist through the active duty recruiter as a prior service candidate, right? So if you got out of the reserves, conditional release, you're technically considered prior service, or apply for OCS/OTS. This is true unless you have not yet been to basic training as a guard or a reservist. If you're not yet been through basic training, you get the conditional release approved. Normally, you are enlisted active duty as a non-prior service candidate. So if you're in the Guard and Reserves and you want to make that switch, but you haven't gone through basic training or your MOS school, you're going to be going through it again, you know, active duty. You're not going to be considered prior service, pretty much. So it says, unfortunately, prior service candidates are among the lowest on the recruiting priority totem pole. And pretty much, to summarize what this is going to say, it's mostly because recruiters really don't get, you know, the credit for prior service. They don't really count towards their recruiting numbers, is what the article said. So you got to find a recruiter that's just really willing to help you, just out of the kindness of his heart, and he'll actually put in the effort. Because, you know, some might be like, oh, well, you know, it doesn't serve to my numbers, so I really don't care. But just something to think about, right? Let's see. Usually, if prior service recruit has an MOS that directly converts to an MOS of the active duty service they are trying to enlist in, and if the service has a current need for personnel in that MOS, then it is mandatory that the recruit enlist in that specific job, right? So if active duty needs your current MOS that you were in the reserves or the Guard, like, chances are you're going to be put in that MOS. You're not going to get to choose a new one, right? But then it goes on to say, right, if the applicant is certified in a job that is not currently in need by active duty service they are trying to join, or if they have a job that does not cross-relate to the service they are trying to join, only then may they enlist into a different job, right? So say you have a job, but there's really no slots for it in active duty, then, you know, you might get to choose another job. I want to say this is like wrapping it up right here. It says conditional releases are approved for a period of 6 months. If an extension is required, an additional 3 months may be granted. A copy of the oath of office or enlistment contract should be returned to the losing component within the specified time frame. So that means your conditional release is good for 6 months. Should the process of you going to active takes a little longer, and even if it goes over 6 months, you can add 3 months onto that, you know, by requesting an extension. And that's pretty much the article in a nutshell, guys. That's pretty much the entire thing, right? I read it verbatim, so that way nothing gets lost in translation, things like that. Like, you guys get a clear meaning as to what it's saying and how to go about the process, right? And there's a couple other tips, right? Like when you get to your reserve or guard unit and you know you want to make that switch, or you've been there a little bit, like make sure you're good friends with like the people in your squad, your platoon, because your chain of command is going to be the one to help you through this. And if you have a shitty chain of command, or you know you're a troublemaker and you're just causing trouble for your chain of command, they're not going to be as inclined to help you. Should you be like more buddy-buddy with them? Should you be helping out? Should you be a good soldier, right? You got to prove to them that you're active duty material, that that's what you want to do, that's where you want to go. And so that just helps, right? But the easiest thing I would say to do is, you know, like it said, follow the steps, get your chain of command involved, right? Tell them, hey, I want to go active duty, like I have the conditional release, can we like start getting the process going, you know what I mean? And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I really hope this video gave you a little more insight than some of the other videos out there. I know some people just kind of hit on it here and there, but they really don't go in depth. So I hope this did something for y'all. I hope this gave you, you know, some encouragement, you know, a little bit like a starting point pretty much. And if this helped you out, comment down in the comment section below. Let me know why you guys are trying to switch from guard or the reserves to active duty, or, you know, if you're staying in the guards or the reserves, why you thought about it, you know, what's your reasoning behind it. Let me know. I want to hear, guys, just because I feel like it connects us and it builds that that relationship between, you know, subscriber, creator. So it's always fun getting to talk to you guys and answering your comments. And if you guys want to hit me up, feel free to do so on Instagram. I answer all my DMs there, so if you have any questions following this video you don't want to ask in the comment section below, you can hit me up, shoot me a DM, right? My Instagram is at Ben_Allen175. I answer every single question I get, guys, even the dumb ones, but I just try to do it to stay, you know, connected with y'all. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want more videos talking about, you know, the reserves or active duty or basic training, they're going to be somewhere up here on the screen. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Like this video if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one. Later.